Hi, Jared. Okay, there it goes. Hi, everybody. How are y'all doing tonight?
Hey, everyone. Hey, Tanya.
Hey, Jared. So,
Hey,
hi,
Tanya,
Matt.
how you doing?
Good to see you.
You
And I'm going
too.
to have to toggle back and forth when the meeting, sometimes glasses on, sometimes off. For some reason, whenever I'm this close to a screen, it's like it goes back and forth a little bit. So, hey, Jeff, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Tanya.
Can you guys? Oh, hey, you guys. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, is this Stephen?
Yes, Stephen. Yes, thank you.
Okay, yes, I can hear you. And I think too, just to remind everybody as we're joining, we're going to have about 10 minutes, for people to join as they come in. You're automatically muted, but if you want to chime in, and let us know how you're doing, or even in the chat, just say hello to everybody and where you're from. That's been part of the exciting journey, that we're getting a lot of different people from different places that are joining us as well.
Yeah, I'd like to say, I've been at Shell. I've been at Shell as a project manager, and I just recently took a job with Intel as a program manager, or project program manager in Arizona. But I'm still, it's just been recent, like over the last 3 weeks. So I plan on staying with you guys up until I transition to a different chapter.
Okay, so where did you say Intel was located again?
Arizona.
Arizona. Okay.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
well,
If you notice the announcements they were making, they're doing a lot of expansion. Not, the one they made was the expansion that was in Ohio, but they're also doing expansions in Arizona, New Mexico, and Oregon.
okay. So, well, the good thing is right now we do plan to continue the virtual through the duration of 2022. So there will still be those opportunities, and as long as your PMI Baton Rouge ID is active, which it should be from when you renewed through the end of the year, we'll still self-report on your behalf. So, but you're always free to attend with us too, anywhere that you are.
Okay, great.
Seeing all the hellos. Hi, Perry from Florida, and Randall and Jeff from Baton Rouge. And then Carmen is joining us from Oceanside, California.
I was just thinking you should have the magic mirror like back on Romper Room.
Jeff, you're testing my age. I'm trying to remember
Mine
that.
too.
I remember Romper Room, but I'm trying to remember what the magic mirror is.
Yeah.
Let's see. And then Jared, thank you for sharing this screen as well too. Appreciate it.
Is it working? I'm glad that it's working.
Yeah, it is. It's just
Awesome.
letting people know to put their name in, and most people, from what I can see right now, there's some people that just have like first name, but there's a lot that have got a last name, well, as well. I know for the people that are joining by the phone, I'm looking to see if there's any, just even announcing, that they would need to take themselves off of mute and let us know that they're here so we can capture it. Let's see. I'm scrolling through. I'm seeing Kay for the first time. Kay, thank you for joining us recently. And then
Tanya, I'd like to say also that I think it'd be a good idea if people tried to connect on LinkedIn.
I completely
connected with several people in PMI, and you get some really great resources and some really great connections doing that.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. So if everybody, if you're comfortable sharing your LinkedIn URL, this is something that I've seen, them doing an event at a Brandon Land session, but even if you go to your LinkedIn and then capture that and put it in the chat, that'll allow people to scroll back through while we're going through the meeting and give them the ability to connect with you on LinkedIn.
So Tanya, I think Craig from Tokyo is now a record. I think that is the longest distance attendee we've had so far. I could be wrong, but if I were keeping track, I'd say it's at minimum impressive,
right?
To have someone join us from Tokyo.
Well, it's just the cool thing about the reach, and I mean, I know that we experienced some of this last year, and I did see that Lee Lambert is planning on joining us tonight as well. But I felt like when we hosted him in January, he really helped to share the message of our chapter a lot. And even last month, I had a lot of friends that are located in different states that shared it as well. And I'm continually sort of blown away by the power of the reach of LinkedIn. It's very neat.
For sure. No, virtual's been working well for us. And look, sharing this with the group, we had a board meeting this past Saturday where we really started to talk about some of our reach strategy and how we're really executing the mission. And we looked at some data on the attendance of our virtual events versus our in-person events, and really it's been almost exponential, the growth of our virtual attendance just in the last quarter. I mean, it's really skyrocketed. So we love the reach. We're looking at ways that we can really start to use that reach in some very meaningful ways. So we appreciate everybody coming in and being part of that for sure. And look, this evening we've got Matt. Matt, thank you so much for coming and joining us. I was just reading through your bio. You've done some really, really incredible stuff. I mean, you've been coaching and leading kind of the world over internationally, and you're doing a lot with sports coaching as well, coaching youth. I think that's awesome. I did that very kind of the minor league version of what you're doing for some years with my son. So really looking forward to what you have to bring to us this evening.
Thank you, and thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to sharing with this chapter and contributing what I can. I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. Well, look, Tanya, I'll kick over to you for any chapter announcements that you wanted to make to the group this evening, and then I'll go ahead and I'll introduce Matt and hand it over to him.
Okay, sure. So, and I believe we're still going to have people joining us. I mean, just for transparency for y'all, and I know I've probably said this some of the other meetings. It tends to be, we have our registrations that come through our STAR chapter system, and we're seeing about a 60% attendance rate. So we'll probably see people trickle through as well. But I also just wanted to welcome our VP of Membership, Emily Ward, is actually here with us today. And I do see she put a note in the chat, about our membership. So I wanted to give her an opportunity, if she had a second, just to come on and tell us a little bit about herself. And if not, I totally understand too. So.
Hey guys, I'm so sorry. I'm struggling with the unmute button here. But I'm so happy to see so many of you guys joining us today, and from all over, not just here locally in Baton Rouge. As Jared already mentioned, we had a really great board meeting this past weekend. We all met Saturday. It was wonderful to get to spend some time together going over metrics and where our members are from and what you guys are interested in learning for future events. And we're super excited to put those into action items in the coming months. If you aren't already a member of our chapter, I've dropped the link in the chat, so feel free to look around. I believe the dues are about $30 a month, and you'll have access to all of our events in addition to the virtual. So should we have anything new and fresh, you'll be the first to know. But so glad to be here with everybody tonight, and thanks for everybody taking some time out to join us.
Thank you, Emily. And I do have one quick interjection. It's $30 a year for the annual membership to Baton Rouge. Now, you do have to be a member of National PMI to join any of the different chapters. But we've also got, for those of you that are out of town too, we also have all of Region 6's PMI chapters located on our homepage as well. And I'm a member of different chapters also, so it's good to kind of get out there and network with different groups as well. So, but the only other bit, let's see, so we've got about 3 minutes left. The only other big announcements that I've got for those of you that are here locally as well and in Louisiana, we will be having our in-person meeting, which is going to be next Thursday at Drusilla. And that's going to be Jesse Gallery talking about Dial R for risk. So I know there's a lot of you that are anxious to get back to in-person and see each other as well. All right, Jared.
That's funny. Just as I'm about to start introducing Matt, my mindfulness app on my phone starts giving me notifications telling me that I need to concentrate on my breathing. Not because I'm nervous, just because it reminds me periodically, it's a mindfulness app, right? It's what it's supposed to be doing. But look, so Matt Alfonso is our presenter this evening. Matt coaches executives and other leaders to help them become more mindful leaders. And he's going to talk about his approach this evening, becoming a more mindful leader. I love this topic. Mindfulness is something that's very, very, very important to me. The ability to sort of recenter ourselves, especially when things work and life and other things can become very chaotic. It's a very important skill to master, especially if we're looking to lead other people and to create order out of that chaos that's around us. Now, Matt started his career as a phys ed teacher in Arlington, Virginia, and he taught overseas for several years in Paraguay and China. Now that he's back in the U.S., he's been coaching college basketball at Bard College for 5 years. Matt started out as a mindfulness coach, started his coaching business as a mindfulness coach, and then transitioned into leadership coaching from there. Matt's approach is to combine the leadership lessons that he learned through coaching sports and the knowledge that he's gained through mindfulness and meditation practice to provide an impactful experience for clients and audiences. So very much looking forward to this, Matt. Thank you so much for being with us. I'm going to stop my share and I'm going to kick this over to you, okay?
Thank you, Jared, for the introduction. And thank you, Tanya, for inviting me here to speak to everyone. And also thanks to everyone for taking the time to be here, to invest in yourself, investing really in your professional development and being better project managers, investing in yourself personally. And most people don't do that. So really acknowledging yourself, and I want to acknowledge you for just taking this time to be here and to show up and to do this. My 2 goals for this presentation, and really my goals for every presentation, are the first one is to make it thought-provoking. I'm going to share a lot of different ideas with you. Some of them you might agree with, some you might hear them and you might think about something else. And that's great as well. I really want to get you thinking about things, thinking about your leadership style, ways to improve it, ways to incorporate mindful leadership into it. The second thing is that I want this to be actionable. I've heard a lot of really good presentations where it was more information, but then I didn't necessarily act on it. What I'm sharing with you today, I want to be knowledgeable, but I also want you to take it and then to use it, to put it into action and to be able to implement it to really make a difference in your professional and your personal lives. Some things that I think will help you get the most out of this meeting. The first one is to be fully present, to really be engaged in this and to give it your full attention, to eliminate any distractions, whether that's your phone or social media or your email, and be fully present with this. I know some of you might have, a child or something that you have to attend to, and that's absolutely fine. And then just doing your best for the things that you can control to be fully present. The second thing is to have something to take notes on, either a notebook or an electronic device that you use for note-taking. I will be sharing a good amount of information, and I'll also be asking questions either to put into the chat or to write in your own notebooks. And then the last one is, I see most people are not on video. If you do want to get on video, I'd love for just to see faces. I feel like people do become a little bit more engaged when they're on video, but this one is completely up to you. I know some people might not feel comfortable or have some things going on, so that one is up to you. For this presentation for today, I'll talk a little bit more about myself. Jared did a great job of introducing. I'll just share a couple other key points that I think help you get to know me a little bit more. And then I'll talk about what mindful leadership is, why it's important, the benefits of it. Then I'll go into the 5 core competencies. And this is really where I will be spending most of the time explaining what these are and then how it can impact you. And then after that, there will be a question and answer part. So if you have any questions, if you can save them to the end, that'd be great. If they're really pertinent and you can't wait, that's okay. You can put them in the chat, but for the most part, save questions to the end, and I'll have 5 to 10 minutes for a question and answer there. A little bit about myself. As Jared mentioned, I was very much into sports, and after college, my goal was to become a college basketball coach. During that time in my early 20s, I did deal with some depression and some anxiety, which really allowed me, kind of forced me, but also allowed me to focus on myself, to focus on my personal development. And once I really got myself into a good place there, I realized that I needed a change. I just needed to do something different. And that's what brought me overseas. In 2011, I went to Paraguay for 2 years. And then after that, I went to China for 2 years. In both of those places, teaching physical education and also coaching high school basketball. After leaving China, I traveled for 5 months. And on this time was when I really got into meditation and mindfulness. I went on a couple different retreats on my travel, and really it sparked my interest and it became a major part of my life. It really had a massive impact in terms of my overall well-being, my happiness, also my performance on work. Then when I did come back to the US, I did get into college basketball coaching and coached at Bard College for 5 years. And during this time, from coaching high school to coaching college is really when I developed my leadership skills. Coaching basketball is a great form of leadership, as is project managing. It puts you in a lot of different situations to be able to lead a group to a desired result. 2 years ago is when I started to get into one-on-one coaching as well. And I started with mindfulness, and then mindfulness became high performance. And now it's leadership, where I really do combine the mindfulness with the leadership. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and take you to, let's see. Okay, can everybody see the screen? Okay.
It looks like it's trying to come up right now. It's blank right now.
Okay, all right, it says pause. It says it's on pause. Hold on 1 second. Let me stop sharing. Let me try one more time. Okay. Anything?
Still just a whiteboard.
Let me see what we have going on here. Okay. Recording this on the account owner, everyone in the meeting can see things. Okay. I'm not sure why. Oh, here we go. Okay, I just resumed share. I think that should do it. Okay, let's open this back up. All righty. Okay.
You can see it.
There you go.
There you go. Got it.
Thank you guys. Sorry about that.
It's okay. Technology does this all the time.
I so rarely have trouble with this stuff, and yeah, now I do understand.
I do.
All righty, so
totally understand.
we'll go into it. So first, in terms of what is mindful leadership? So mindful leadership is leading from a state of presence, which takes me into what is presence. And presence is your awareness. It's being aware of what's arising within you internally, and also being aware of what's arising externally, and being aware in a non-judgmental way. Another way to think of presence is to be fully engaged in this moment. And with mindful leadership, it's about you being present yourself and leading from this state of presence, and then also you creating this culture amongst the team and amongst the people that you do lead. Benefits of mindful leadership. So why it's important. And these benefits are really, mindfulness has been studied a good amount over the last 20 to 30 years. And mindfulness at work's been studied a little bit more. And now they're starting to get into studying mindful leadership. And these benefits are from mindfulness in the workplace and also mindful leadership specifically. The first one is improved productivity and focus. What mindfulness really allows you to do is to build your concentration, to help you sustain your focus. Sustain your focus, whether it is on something such as breathing, whether it's on the present moment, whether it's on a certain task that you're working on. And with that sustained focus does come increased productivity. And I'll talk more about this during the 5 key components. The second one is increased emotional regulation, being able to regulate and manage your emotional state. And again, I'll talk more about this during the 5 key components. It also allows you to reduce stress, to both reduce and to manage your stress, which I know for project managers, it is a stressful job. My brother-in-law is a project manager. I've worked with project managers in coaching and have a number of friends in it. And there's a lot to it. There's a lot of different demands. There's a lot of different moving parts, and it puts a lot of stress on you. And being able to have these mindfulness tools will both help you reduce it and be able to successfully manage it. The fourth one is it helps you lead with compassion and empathy, understanding that as you are leading mindfully, that people that you are leading are going through different situations in their life. Many things that you're not aware of, whether it's their personal, whether it's professional, whether it's mental health, but keeping this in mind and leading from a place of compassion, mindful leadership does allow you to do that. The next one allows you to develop healthier relationships. This is one of the core components as well, which I'll talk more about as we go. And then the last couple of benefits, it helps you improve your resilience, which is really crucial for professionally and personally. It helps with decision-making, which is essential for any leader, especially project managers who are really constantly making decisions that will impact where their project goes and how successful it will be. And then the last one that I put, there are more benefits than these, but the last one I put is higher employee engagement. It really allows for increased employee engagement, satisfaction, and also well-being. The 5 core competencies of mindful leadership. The first one is really what I was mentioning with the definition, and that's being present and creating a culture of presence. The second one is emotional intelligence. The third is building meaningful relationships. Fourth is sustained focus. And the 5th one is self-care. First question I'd like you to answer is, how present are you? In thinking about your own level of presence and rating this on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 being not present at all. You're constantly either living in the past, you're worrying about the future, your mind is dazing out. 10 being highly present. You're consistently living in the present moment, having a high level of awareness. Go ahead and put this in the chat. I'd love to see where people feel that they are in terms of their own level of awareness and their level of presence. Okay, I see 6, 8, 9, 9, 8, 7.5, 5 to 6. Lately 4, 6 because I get distracted easily, 5. Okay, for right now, I put myself as a 7.5. Before I started really my journey, I was in 2015, I'd probably put myself as a 3. I was constantly replaying things in the past. My mind was often in a different place, not really focused on this moment. And over the last seven years, I've really developed this. It is a skill. It's a state as well. It's a state of being, but it's also a skill that can be improved, just like a sports skill or just like playing an instrument. And as you are incorporating these different tools and strategies, which I'll mention next, you can continue to develop this presence. Which brings me into developing presence. A few ways that I put on here. And the first, these are 4. At the end, I'll share a document that has 6 more. It has 10 total. And remind me if I do forget that. The first one for developing your own presence is meditation and starting a meditation practice. Meditation really helps you to build this mindfulness, not just in the 10 or 20 minutes that you're sitting on the meditation cushion, but really it transfers to the entire day, to all of your waking hours. And in terms of what type of meditation to do, there's many different types. Really experiment, see which one works best for you. I do a breathing one is probably the one that's most used often, where the focal point is the breath. And that's still the one that I use the most, where you'll really allow yourself to breathe naturally and bring your awareness and watch the breath. And then anytime your mind wanders, and it will wander, then to simply bring it back to the breath in a non-judgmental and a kind way. There are apps to use. I remember Jared was mentioning he has a mindfulness app. There's also one specifically for meditation. Headspace, Calm, and Insight Timer are probably the 3 most popular. Again, that's Headspace, Calm, and Insight Timer. All 3 of those are really good, and it can be helpful, especially if you are learning. The second one is to use mindful movements. Mindful movements is anytime you're doing physical activity and your body is in motion, just to be really aware of your body and what it's doing. So just being very present of how your body is moving. For instance, if the mindful movement is walking, being aware of your foot as it touches the ground, especially if you're walking barefoot. If you're walking with sneakers, the sole of the foot, or any sensations within your knees, your hips, within your body that you're experiencing. Same thing with if you're doing yoga, allowing yourself as you're moving into different postures, just really being aware of your body as it's moving. You might find you're holding a posture and you kind of feel some tension in it. You can bring your awareness to that. But you can do this with any, it could be with dance, it can be with swimming, it could be with running, it could be with playing a team sport, just bring your awareness to it. You can also do this with bringing your awareness to daily habits and activities, such as brushing your teeth, such as getting changed, such as cooking, such as eating. Mindful eating is a great one to start with this, where really just being aware of each bite and each sip. And if your mind wanders, that's fine, but then just being able to bring it back to that. And then the last one that I put on here is daily check-ins. Daily check-ins are really switching from doing to simply being. Throughout our day, we're constantly doing, one task to the next. It's really allowing yourself to pause, to stop, and to check in with yourself. Tara Brach, who's an excellent mindfulness teacher, calls them purposeful pauses. We're really on purpose, just stopping and pausing and checking in with how you're doing. And you can do these at any different point throughout the day. I like to do them if I'm right after lunch. I'll do one of these just to get myself resettled into work. Before I coach a client or before I give a presentation, I'll do one of these just to settle myself and get myself in a good state. Or if I'm starting to feel overwhelmed, if I start to feel like, okay, I'm just rushing too much and I don't feel quite right, then I'll just notice that and I'll do one of these daily check-ins. And we will do one of these daily check-ins here as a group, and I'll lead you through it so this way you can see what it is and that you can participate on your own. I highly encourage you to give this a try and to participate in it. We'll go ahead and allow yourself to sit up nice and tall. Allow your back to lengthen. You can move forward on your chair so it's not touching the back of the chair. You can have your feet nice and planted on the ground. And then we'll go ahead and close our eyes and begin to bring our awareness within. Let's take a deep breath to get ourselves settled. So we'll take a nice deep inhale through the nose, and then an exhale out the mouth. Let's do one more deep breath. Inhale through the nose, and exhale out the mouth. Now allow your breath to become natural, allowing yourself to breathe in and out of the nose, and allowing your body to breathe naturally, and simply bringing your attention or your awareness to the breath. Becoming aware of the inhale as it enters, and then as the exhale as it leaves. Now take your awareness to your body and notice how your body is feeling in this moment. You can scan your body and notice if there's any areas that are tight or achy, and you can bring your awareness to that area. Not trying to change it, but simply just bringing your awareness to it. And then once again, let's reconnect to the breath, allowing yourself to breathe naturally and simply noticing the breath. Let's take 3 more mindful breaths. And then on the third exhale, we can open our eyes and bring ourselves back. If your eyes are still closed, you can take 1 more breath, and on that exhale, you can open your eyes. And just take note of how you're feeling. Notice if you're feeling any more relaxed, if you feel maybe more grounded or more centered, or if you feel the same, but just taking a note of how you feel in this moment. These daily check-ins, as I mentioned, you can really do them at any point, and they are not very long. Oftentimes it's 30 seconds to 2 minutes. The one we did was probably 2 minutes, maybe just 2 to 3 minutes, but typically when I'll do them, they'll be 30 seconds to a minute, and oftentimes it's just connecting with the breath and allowing myself to become aware of it. The second part of this first core competency is creating culture within your team. So really helping yourself to be more present. And as you're developing your presence outside of your job, it will really impact your leadership and how you lead. But then really the second part of mindful leadership is not just yourself being mindful and present, but creating this amongst your team and amongst your organization. One way to do this really is to model it. When you are doing this yourself and you're believing in it and you are working on your present and being more present yourself, then naturally other people will start to be as well. Another way, which I really want to discuss here, is through meetings. Meetings often as project managers, I'm sure you're in several meetings with different teams and different people. And this is a great way to establish this culture of presence. To do this, really set the expectation. Set the expectation in the first meeting of, I call them the expectations, you know, they're rules, but people don't really like rules, so I'll use the word expectations instead. But the first expectation is to be fully present, to really be fully engaged and give your full attention to this meeting, to eliminate any distractions, make sure you're not checking your phone or your social media or your email, but to be fully engaged in this meeting. And I'll say this at the first meeting, and then every so often I'll give a reminder at the beginning of the meeting for one of these three things. Maybe every other meeting, I'll just quickly do that for 20 seconds. And then if somebody is not being present, if I see someone who is on their phone a good amount, then talking to them after the meeting with any type of expectation. We do want to make sure that we're reinforcing it, and then just letting them, reminding them of that and of the importance that we are all fully engaged in the meeting. The second two are really the ones that I personally use for the expectations that I set for my meetings. The first one's really about the mindfulness and the presence. The other two are just really what I use. And you can use these, or you can certainly, you know, take one of them and maybe you have one or two others that you like a little bit more. The second one is clear and concise with communication. And then the third one is encouraging people to take chances and being willing to speak up. Those are the three expectations that I go over in the beginning. If any of you are either feel like leading meetings is a struggle for you, one great way to develop this is Toastmasters as well. I was talking with Tanya and I was mentioning to her how Toastmasters really helped me in terms of leading meetings myself, and then also being able to do presentations like this. But that's a public speaking group. The second core competency is emotional intelligence. And emotional intelligence is your ability to both understand and to manage your own emotions, to be able to know what they are and how to properly regulate them. And then the second part of it is being aware of other people's emotions and being able to respond appropriate. So there's really two parts. There's the emotional intelligence within yourself, and then there's the emotional intelligence in interpersonal and relationships. Question for you, and this question also I'd like you to put in the chat, and that's, what strategy do you use to respond to challenging or difficult situations? For instance, is there something that you do in these tough situations to help you respond skillfully rather than just quickly reacting? And I'll give a couple of examples of potential challenging situations. One might be you ask someone to do an important task and then they forgot to do it. How are you going to react in that moment? Or you ask someone to do something very specifically and they took it on themselves to do something different, which may happen in the project manager world. How do you respond skillfully in that situation? Or if you're running a meeting and someone's continually interrupting, that's another situation as well. But what strategy works best for you in those situations? If you don't have a strategy, you can just put no strategy. Okay, let's see. Stop and pause. Pause, empathy. Everyone's going through their own struggles. Deep breaths, try and understand the background. Grounding myself. I use meeting agendas and minutes. Stop, pause, push away the keyboard and take a brief walk away from your desk. That's a great one, especially if you have to write an email or something. Ask them if they understood the assignments. Avoid empathy, yes. Stop and pause, remain calm and go over the details. Practice compassion, take them aside and mentor. I love that one. All these are great. No conscientious strategy. I don't have a strategy. Really, what I stay in those situations is not planned. Punch a wall, just kidding. Stop and pause, seek guidance or someone to be a sounding board. Great, intentional breathing, excellent. All right, here's what I recommend in terms of, and these were mentioned in those. I call it PBR, and you can remember it in terms of Pabst Blue Ribbon, the beer, or this is different, but it might help you remember it in terms of pause, breathe, and respond. So the first thing that you want to do in these situations, as a lot of people put in there, is to pause, to take a second just to stop and to pause and to gather yourselves, to not just quickly react to it. The second thing is to breathe. And the breath is so essential for mindfulness. And it's also just an amazing tool to be able to control your own state and really quickly be able to control your own state. If you're feeling overwhelmed, doing just 20 or 30 seconds of breathing will have an impact on your state, or you may want to do longer, 5 minutes. But the breath is such an impactful in terms of our nervous system and being able to calm that down. And for this, it's really taking 1 to 2 breaths, taking 1 to 2 breaths where you're aware of the breath in that situation, especially if you're with someone. In between the pause and the breath, that may be 5 seconds or so, and that's okay. Might feel a bit awkward, but what it's really allowing, it's allowing yourself to calm down, and it's also allowing the other person to calm down. Where the other person, chances are, they're probably a little bit emotional themselves. And just by you pausing and taking a breath, you're allowing both people to calm down in that situation. And then the third part of it is responding, and responding skillfully. And when you are able to pause, you are able to breathe, then it allows you to respond a lot more skillfully to how can I best manage the situation to help improve this situation, rather than escalating it and it becoming a smaller problem, becoming much, much larger. A quote on this that sums it up beautifully is by Viktor Frankl, who wrote Man's Search for Meaning. And I'll let you read this quote to yourself. He mentions that between the stimulus, whatever happens, and your response, there is a space. And if you react right away, that space can be close to 0. It can be 0.01 seconds. Or you can have an actual space where he puts it, you have a space to choose your response. And in that choice allows your growth and also allows your freedom. And I think it's a wonderful quote in how he explains that. But it really does allow you to give you this choice. I went to a meditation retreat in the Bahamas. It was at Shivananda. And I talked to one of the meditation teachers afterwards and asked him really about controlling your state and how to do this in these difficult situations and how to do it before speaking. And what he said to me was, are you going to prepare for the battle the day of the battle? And I said, no. And he said, no, you're going to do it weeks, months, or years in advance. And it's really a big part of this is the work that you'll do on yourself, the being able to times meditating, the times using the different mindfulness strategies that I mentioned before to help you develop it in those moments. And then by using the pause, breathe, respond will help you as well in that moment. One of my clients had an issue with this, not as much at work, but more at home with his 2 kids. One is 3 and one is 6. And really just losing his temper and just reacting in those situations and yelling at them in the situation. And through this, he wasn't perfect with it. He did have some mistakes where he kind of went back to old habits, but it became, instead of happening once a week, it became every other month, or it became very, very infrequently. The times it did happen, he was able to learn from it, but the frequency became very minimal to rarely. The third core competency is building meaningful relationships. And relationships are really the core of leadership. This is really the center of it. If you want to become a great leader, then you need to learn how to build meaningful relationships, to build relationships of trust, of respect, where people do really respect what you have to say and want to follow you rather than just having to. But it really starts with the relationships. And from a mindfulness perspective, it's about giving your full attention to people, being fully with that person and giving that person your full attention, whether that's a Zoom call, whether that's in person. And to do this, be fully with them and eliminate distractions. So you're not checking your phone as you're talking to them. You're not on the keyboard and then looking up and then looking back down, but you stop what you're doing and you're with them. Same with environmental distractions. You're not quickly distracted by things around you, but you're able to focus on them. I want you to think about someone in your own life. Maybe it was a boss that you had or a coworker who was constantly distracted and often checking their phone when they're talking to you or not really there. And just think about how that made you feel in those situations. Then think about the other end of the spectrum. Think about one person and bring one person to mind who is just fully engaged with you. He makes you feel like you're the only person in the world and is really just makes you feel that important. And actually bring that person to mind of someone who does have that talent to do that. It's not really as much talent, it's just an intentional choice that person makes. When you do give people your full attention, it does a couple really important things. It does make that other person feel important, which is everybody wants to feel at their core, they want to feel important, and you're giving that to that person. The second thing is it allows you to really connect with that person, to hear what they're truly having to say, maybe to hear what they're actually saying behind their words. You can pick up on their tone. You can pick up on their body language and realize that there's something deeper that they're trying to convey. And by being fully present, you're able to notice that. If you weren't fully present, chances are you'd miss that. This is actually my favorite quote, and I'm a big quote person. The most precious gift that we can offer others is our presence. The most precious gift that we can offer others is our presence. And that really just reminds me to really just be fully present with people, and that it is a gift. And this is by Thich Nhat Hanh, who's a famous mindfulness and spiritual teacher who recently just passed away, but was really one of the fathers of the mindfulness movement. The fourth core competency is focus. I truly believe the number one separator for people today that are high performers and then people that are average or people that are below average is their ability to focus. And there's certainly a lot of other things as well, but a focus for me would be at the very top of the list. I did when I was starting the coaching, and especially when I was starting to work with business leaders, I reached out to as many people as I could. I reached out to family, I reached out to friends, I reached out to friends of friends, and got on phone calls with them and talked to them for 30, 45 minutes to get to know them better and just to learn more about them as leaders and really how they operate. And the number one thing that stood out to me with these people and these business leaders was their ability to focus. And I didn't even have to observe them. It was over the phone and just hearing about them, how they went about their work, how they went about their schedule. I could just tell the level of focus that they had. And for a few of them, it was exceptional. And it made me realize that my own focus wasn't at that level. And it really encouraged me to try to raise my own focus. The one main thing that I'll give you with focus is to do one task at a time, which sounds very simple, and it is, but it's a little bit more difficult to implement than you might necessarily think at first glance. And doing one task at a time is so important for productivity. It really allows you to get into a flow state and to be at your best and to get so much more done. When you're multitasking and really task shifting and going from one thing to the next, each time you switch, your brain has to refocus. It's wasting time. It takes a little bit more time to actually get deeper into it. I do coaching with people, and this is one thing that I highly recommend. And I've had clients tell me that this has been the #1 takeaway for them, and the biggest change that they've made is doing one task at a time, and how much of a difference it's made in terms of their output and their performance. 2 ways to help you to accomplish this. The first one is to use scheduling, to have a clear on your schedule for this 60 minutes, this is what I'm doing. For this 90 minutes, this is what I'm doing. Otherwise, if you don't use scheduling, chances are you're going to be bouncing from one thing to the next, to the next. The second thing is to eliminate distractions. And I think I've mentioned distractions a few times on this call already. And for good reason. There's so many distractions out there. There are more distractions now than there ever have been. And that's not going to decrease anytime in the future. Chances are it'll probably increase. And being able to eliminate or limit as best as possible those distractions is so crucial. And this may be turning off notifications, maybe turning off notifications on your social media for one instance, but trying to figure out different ways that you can limit these distractions so that you are able to fully focus for a sustained period of time. The last core competency is self-care. And self-care is essential for any leader. It's essential for project managers who do have demanding jobs, who have jobs with a lot of stress and demand on them. And it's even more important for people that have these demanding jobs to make sure that they are taking care of themselves. My first coach used to tell me, you can't pour from an empty cup. I mean, you got to make sure that you're taking care of yourself first if you are really going to be leading and serving at a high level. The big 3 for this, and really for health, is physical activity, making sure that you are moving the body. It doesn't matter which type of physical activity you're doing, whatever physical activity that you enjoy, that you can continually do, that's great for you to do. And I'd recommend, especially if you're starting one of these, if you're starting with physical activity, maybe nutrition as well, start small. Charles Duhigg and The Power of Habit talked about, he recommended for people that were going for a run for the first week to simply change into running clothes and put on your sneakers. And that was it. Don't actually go on the run. Just start that small. James Clear and Atomic Habits, and Atomic Habits is a great book, talks about starting with 2 minutes if you're starting a meditation practice. I often recommend people to start with 5 minutes. And I was like, maybe I should kind of bump that down a little bit to 2 minutes. But he was talking really starting small, allowing yourself to see success, and then giving yourself momentum. And then you'll actually want to do more if you start small. You'll want to increase it. Rather than starting a meditation practice and doing it 20 minutes, where it feels like, oh man, this is a lot of work. And you almost start to dread it a little bit, rather than starting small and then gradually increasing it. Second one is nutrition. For nutrition, whatever little change you want to make to your nutrition, whether it's getting more vegetables, whether it's reducing the amount of sugar, whether it's intaking more water. But nutrition is essential for your self-care. And then the last one is sleep, allowing yourself to get 7 to 9 hours of sleep, which is the recommended amount for adults, to making sure your sleep schedule is consistent in terms of when you're going to bed and when you're waking up, and to making sure that the quality of the sleep is also good in terms of you're controlling your environment to not just get that amount of time, but to get a good quality of sleep as well. I want you to think about these 3, and one other one for self-care as well is just giving yourself time to do hobbies and things you enjoy. Think about these 3 though, and think about, write in your own notebook, what's one that I'm doing well in right now? What's one that you feel like out of these 3, I'm in a good place with? And you don't need to share this in the chat. You can just write this in your own notebook. And then write one that you would like to improve on, one that maybe you're having a little bit more trouble with out of the 3, and you like to make a change into that area. The last part is the implementation. And as I mentioned in the beginning, I want this to be impactful to you in terms of thought-provoking, but I also want it to be actionable. So I want you to write down in your journals or in your notebooks, which one of the 5 core competencies are you going to focus on first? And once again, the 5 core competencies were developing presence, emotional intelligence, developing relationships, focus is the 4th one, and self-care is the 5th one. So choosing which one you want to focus on first, and then what is the one action step that you want to do for this? So for instance, if you're choosing to be more present, that action step might be to start a meditation practice, or it may be to do the daily check-ins. If you choose relationships, it may be to give people your full attention. Or it may be something that I didn't mention. It may be to ask some more questions and to find out about the people that you work with. Even if I didn't mention it, but it's something that you think would really benefit you. Once you have that, I want you to now write down a second one out of the 5 core competencies. What's the second one that you want to focus on? And this might be, you might focus on this a couple of weeks from now, once you kind of establish that first one, or a month or 2 from now. But just starting to think about a little bit of a plan in terms of, okay, I'm going to focus on this one first. Once I establish this one, then I can focus on this next one second. And then the same thing, an action step with that second one. Here is my contact information if you'd like to reach out to me and to get to know me more. First is my website, which is mattalfonso.com, which if you're interested in coaching and leadership coaching and want to make a change, you can go on there and you can book a discovery call through there. You can also go there. I have a blog which has articles and it also has videos to learn more about mindful leadership. And I've done high performance in the past. And then I also have one which is on newsletter, where if you put in your first name and your email, you'll get a PDF on peak productivity. It's a productivity system. And then you'll also get my weekly emails on mindful leadership. You can also email me. If you either email me or connect on LinkedIn, just let me know that you heard this presentation, and this way I have some context of where you do know me from. And I heard someone in the beginning mentioning about connecting with people on LinkedIn. And I think that's a wonderful idea in terms of connecting with me and then connecting with the other people. And I know a lot of people put their LinkedIns in the chat, which was a great idea. And questions. And I love this little dog with the hand up for the questions. I kind of chuckle every time I see it. Before I get into questions, I do want to share one thing in the chat, and that is the PDF on developing your presence. Let's see if this will. Oh, here we go. Okay.
And while the Matt's pulling that up, I just wanted to repeat the claim code for people that are guests of the Baton Rouge chapter. So for those of you that are members, the PDUs will be submitted within 3 to 5 business days. And for those of you that are guests that have the PMP, it's C106N, Z as in zebra, G as in guy, G as in guy, J as in Jack, O as in orange.
I'm having a little trouble putting the PDF in there. Tanya, I can also email it to you if that's okay. And you can
that's fine. And I can send it out to the participants afterwards. I can follow up with that list.
Okay, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Okay. And then I'll open it up to questions. If you want a question, you can either raise your hand or come off mute, or you can also put it into the chat as well.
Yeah, I have a question. Do you have any YouTube videos that you would suggest for meditation, guided meditation? Obviously, I've searched it before, and then some of them, the most popular ones are just I don't know, I can't get into them. So do you have any that you would recommend?
Yeah, thanks for that question, Stephen. I'd recommend a couple people. The first one is John Kabat-Zinn, and that's Jon. I think Kabat is Kabat, and then Zin. And he has really great ones for body scan meditations, which is really good for stress relief. And then another person that I would recommend is Tara Brach. I think I mentioned Tara a little bit earlier. I could put that in the chat as well. Tara is another one. She has wonderful meditations on there as well. Tara Brach has one also called the Rain Meditation, which I really like. Another type of meditation I'm going to put in here as well is something I'd recommend to explore with a little bit, and which is a little bit different, which is loving kindness meditation. And if you're YouTubing this, you can YouTube those two people I mentioned. You can also loving kindness meditation is just a different form of it, and really good for your own self-worth and for just kind of how you feel about yourself, and allowing yourself to really just be kind and gentle to yourself and to the world in general, not just to yourself, but to others as well.
Yeah, I got another one. It's not so much a question. It's just I want to express my gratitude, man. This was one of the best presentations that I've attended with PMI. I've been a member for about 14 months now, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, been locked in, and just really enjoyed your presentation and the way you presented it, and was very thought-provoking, and enjoyed it.
Thank you very much, Stephen. I appreciate you saying that as well. Thank you.
I think from a chapter perspective, I find that it's very important, in my mind at least, to highlight a lot of the different spectrums of project management, and even being mindful as a leader and taking care of yourself so you can be there for others. I think it's something that really, it impacts a lot of us. So.
Tanya, this is Kim. I'd like to kind of bounce off of what you just said and reiterate that, and especially coming off what Stephen said. I think as project managers, I know personally for years, I know I was more concerned about the technical aspects of things, but when I know personally I became more successful as a leader, as in a person, is when I became more mindful of self-awareness and the soft skills, and taking care of oneself in order to be able to take care of others. So I definitely am happy, as Stephen is, that we're turning more to the soft skills trainings for PDUs. I think it's something that's underused, and particularly with the last couple of years we've all been through, really need it. So thanks.
Totally agree. Casey, did you have a question? We're just clapping.
Hey, Tanya, it's Jeff. I just want to echo what Casey just said. I mean, that's the soft skills are something I think in a lot of our businesses that we forget about, as far as how we involve ourselves, and as far as meditation and just being able to take a step back and hit a reset button. We spend so much time in classes and programs to try to learn how to push for results and get the job done, just drive. And it's nice and it's reassuring that we have a presentation like this that says, hey, it's all right to take a step back and reevaluate how you're feeling today, and try to make it a more positive day for everybody around you. Because there was a part of the theme and part of the presentation, we can't really spend so much time on what we feel and what we're thinking, because there's another person in that exchange. It's also, we have to consider what they're going through and their emotional maturity, and we have to consider that, or we could lose a relationship or lose a deal really quick if we don't have that wherewithal to step back and really evaluate what we're going through. But I would like to thank PMI leadership, because you guys have been hitting home runs on our guest speakers, for several months. And I think that's probably a learning from COVID to make better use of our time and to really get things in here that are going to help us. Thank you.
Agreed. And, part of the consideration too is just even, for those of you that do have the credential, just even speaking to the talent triangle, like diversifying enough to have technical, have leadership, have strategic, to where, you know, when people show up, we can kind of get those dispersed evenly for people and just offering a different variety, you know, because while many of us, myself included, are still trying to learn some of the different agile flavors, it's nice to just be brought back to the humanity and the balance of things. And even last night I was in a meeting with our regional PMI, and so they're doing a very intentional assessment of the PMI national culture. It's something that Jared and I will be going at the end of the month, you know, to a trip to learn a little bit more about that as well. But even from the national perspective, they're doing some changes and they're trying to sharpen their awareness on what their customer base and stakeholders needs as well. So it's kind of going across not only the local chapters, but also coming down from a national level too. And I will be excited to share more information with y'all whenever we have that. Oh, we've still got a bit of time left. Does anybody have any other questions or observations?
Someone in the chat wrote, Michael LeBlanc, Create with Consciousness, has breathing and energy meditations classes. He is in Lafayette, but does virtual. He is on LinkedIn and Facebook. Tell him that Kim sent you. Okay, that's another. Thank you, Casey, for that.
Yeah, this is Wizzy Heritage. I'm actually from Colorado, visiting from the Pikes Peak Regional Chapter. And I have found, as with most people, I guess, COVID really kind of put a kibosh on any kind of habits or anything that I had. I find I struggle just to even get out of bed, you know, and so all of these areas just almost seem overwhelming because I need to work on all of them. So I like your idea of which one am I going to focus on first. And even though sleep, I'm assuming you mean by sleep, getting enough sleep. Okay. That's not necessarily a problem for me. My problem is the bad habit of staying up until 1 a.m. and then not getting up until 10 a.m. And that's a problem in the workplace. So I think for me, as far as sleep, it would be to change my routine. So you have any suggestions on that type of area with the getting out of rhythm with your sleep routine?
And with the sleep, it is important in terms of what time you do go to bed, what time you do wake up. And if you are trying to move it up, having a nighttime routine, I think, can be really helpful in terms of what time you're allowing yourself to start to shut down yourself, what time you're starting to settle yourself down, to turn off electronics, to start to get yourself into a better rhythm. I think paying attention to the nighttime will start to help that become a little bit earlier and a little bit earlier to do that. And it might be moving it from waking up at 10 to waking up at 9:30, being consistent. If you fall off one day, it's not the end of the world. Just do your best to get back on the track. Things will come up and you might get off of it, and that's going to happen. But then it's just being able to quickly get yourself back onto track with that, and then gradually moving yourself up with it. But I think having a nighttime routine is a good way to start to move that up.
I think so.
Somebody did just mention in chat that the business hours have changed drastically. So I do tend to be a night owl. I do tend to work better at night, but it's kind of hard with customers, especially East Coast customers that are already 2 hours ahead of me. I need to be able to support them. But yeah, I have always been kind of a night owl. And so it's really hard to change.
It is a challenge. I'm right there with you. I'm a night owl myself, and I don't wake up super early. I wake up at a decent time, but I'm allow myself to, most of my working hours, because I have a morning routine as well, is kind of from 11 a.m. until 7 p.m. because that's when I work best. It will depend though in terms of your job. If you do have to get up a little bit earlier, then that is a consideration and something that you might need to adjust for. And I want to acknowledge you, Wizzy, as well. I thought during the presentation, I thought you were really engaged in terms of just your facial expressions. And you're one of the couple faces that I saw. It was a friendly face. And yeah, thank you for being engaged during the presentation.
Well, sure, I was laughing when you were saying, look at the keyboard, because I was taking notes on in OneNote. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Great presentation.
Thank you.
I like Paul's suggestion, find something riveting like the new tax code. Yeah, I used to work for revenue. To read around 9 or 10, that should help put you to sleep. Yep, good advice.
Yeah, there was a day I kept the PMBOK handy because you digesting more than a chapter of that at a time was painful. So yeah, it was
Yeah,
basic.
the other problem I have is, oh, sorry. Yeah, the other problem I have is that my husband is retired. So, you know, and our bedroom is open at the top. We have a log home. And so I can hear him all night. And it's like, okay, I have to put on the sleep mask. I have to put in the earplugs.
That can be challenging. So.
Hey guys, we were talking about YouTube videos for meditation, and I just wanted to give a little advice that I had to learn on my own. I tried quite a few before that I think it was Stephen was saying he just couldn't get into, and it didn't work, but just kept trying. And I finally, and I don't remember which one it was, but I found one that I was able to connect with, and I was able to, I guess, feel the sensation of kind of being inside and not having any distractions. And boy, it was just so fast to be able to get in there and I felt that like click of what meditation is supposed to be doing. So my advice to anyone looking for that is to keep trying, and if you're like me and like I'm sure many others that it's not clicking in the beginning, it's out there. You just have to find one that works for you, and people can give suggestions all day long, but if one doesn't work for you, then it just doesn't. But there's some out there. There's so many that there's got to be one that'll work for you, and then you just kind of remember what that does, and you're probably able to put that into some other ones that maybe didn't work for you before, and venture out into other types of meditation.
I will say as well, the apps are good as well. I think YouTube videos are good, and then the apps are also kind of another option. And there is guided meditations, which are the YouTube videos, which are the apps. And then there's unguided meditations, which are you doing your own practice. And certain people prefer the guided meditations. Some people prefer the unguided meditations. And that's really a preference as well. But yeah, just to what you were saying, Michael, I think, finding that meditation that works for you is really, what the best meditation is. One meditation is not better than another. It's really what works for you, what you can consistently do.
Exactly. Thanks.
Yeah, going along that, you mentioned the apps Headspace, Calm, and then did you say Insight Timer?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
I think too, and this is a very random suggestion, but even as project managers are good stewards and good coworkers, depending upon whether you're in Zoom or whether, you're in person, I've had the experiences of even working in wellness practices with my coworkers. One of my favorite stories to share was when I lived in Baton Rouge. I had the lady from Alzheimer's group come into the site, and we did what was called laughter yoga, which incorporated both laughter and yoga at the same time. But perhaps the best part of the story was that we had booked it on SharePoint, and one of the other agencies in there came in, and we got to tell them, nope, you can't have this room. We're doing yoga. And we had SharePoint booked first. So, but even doing, even having accountability buddies, just at work, or getting somebody to say, hey, I'm having a moment and I might not respond well to this. Could you walk with me for a second? Or can I just call you and take a second away and bounce an idea off of you before I say something that won't go the right way? So having those friends too helps. Let's see, and Kim's asking, what were those 3 items just listed?
I think for this, for the apps, I'll put them in there.
Okay.
And Matt, I guess I have another question. Obviously, you're available to do this if I reach out to you on LinkedIn to another group.
Yes, I am. I'd be open to do it to other PMI chapters as well. So yeah, absolutely.
All right, thanks, Matt.
You're welcome. Thank you. Any other questions? Otherwise, we'll hand it back to Tanya. All right. Thank you, everybody, for your attention. I really appreciate you investing your own time and your time and attention to doing this. It's really, it means a lot to me, and I highly encourage you to act on what you put down, what those first and second steps, to be committed and to take action steps towards those. So thank you, everybody, and thank you, Tanya and Jared, for having me today.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for
Matt.
doing
Terrific.
this. And I did want to let y'all know on the line too, if y'all missed portions of this, the Zoom is being recorded. We should have out on our website by sometime tomorrow. I will probably post and link it, just to kind of give people a heads up, both on my personal and in the LinkedIn chapter, just driving people to the website. You know, and I wanted to thank Matt again and thank you all for coming. And like I said, those of y'all that'll be in town in Baton Rouge, we're having our in-person next Thursday at Drusilla, and that's Jesse Guillory with Dial R for Risk. So.
Yeah, thanks again, Matt. For chapter members, we will have a survey going out, an engagement survey going out by the end of this week. You'll receive that in your email. We'd love your feedback on what you love about our virtual and our in-person engagements. What's working well, what's not working. We'll have a few questions in there. We're looking at some some potential adjustments to our format for in-person, trying to create some more networking opportunities, create some more social type opportunities for our members. So we'd really love to get some feedback from you. So thank you very much for in advance for your participation there. And thank you everybody who came to join us this evening. Thanks again to Matt. A terrific presentation, terrific content. Love the engagement. I love all the questions. We're looking very much forward to seeing you next time. So thanks to everybody.
See y'all later. Y'all have a great night.
Have a great evening.
Thanks you guys for having us.
Thank you.